Just then, the screen pops up a message that says, "Welcome to beginner level, Cookie." Tiana looks at Mr. Flintex with a confused expression on her face. "Cookie?" she asks. "Like the dessert? What am I going to get? Cookie dough?" Mr. Flintex chuckles under his breath. "No, not the dessert, Tiana. The occupation." "Why not call me Chef then? Chef isn't a name, it's a title. Neither is Cookie." "It's a nickname," Mr. Flintex shrugs. Tiana thinks about it, then shrugs. "Don't like nicknames, but okay. So what are my weapons? Knives, spatulas, and forks." "Forks? If you can nail it with a fork, a ninja star will be nothing," Mr. Flintex says as he reaches for a weapons belt. Then he hands it to Tiana. "Now take these weapons and go to the room next door. Someone will be in shortly to test your skills." Tiana takes the belt and walks over as she wonders why this academy would think that kitchen utensils would be the best training tools to use. There aren't any utensils that could be used for long distances, except for forks and knives, which knives make sense, but forks? Really? They're not even that sharp. When she enters the room, she sets the belt down on the floor by the doorway. She thinks to herself as she stares at the belt. "Going to give me cooking utensils to fight with." She sighs in annoyance as she takes out the spatula and cutting knife and examines them. "I guess these can be useful somehow." She starts to slice the air. The trainer appears in the doorway and watches her with amusement. Tiana twirls the knife in one hand and holds the spatula out in the other, as if she's blocking something. She stands in a fighting stance for a second and then attacks the air. Then she spins while slicing the air and almost cuts the trainer's face. He ducks out of the way while grabbing her wrist. "Whoa," the trainer says while laughing. He lets go of her wrist as Tiana's eyes grow wide in shock. "Oh!" Tiana exclaims as she steps back. "I am so sorry." "Looks like someone's excited," the trainer says as he walks past her. Tiana smiles. "Yeah." The trainer pulls out a silver screen tube and turns it on. A transparent screen pops up and he pushes a button on the side of it and a stylus pops out. He takes the stylus and writes Tiana's name on a screen and checks a couple boxes. "My name is Oud. I will be testing you for the next 7 days." Oud puts the stylus back in the tube and turns it off and puts it back in his pocket. "Today, we are going to test your hand motions." "Okay." Tiana rolls her shoulders back and shakes her arms, then stands in a fighting stance. Oud walks up to her and takes the spatula and knife, without the weapons. Tiana watches as he takes them and puts them back into the belt. "Oh," she says with a little disappointment in her voice. Oud looks at her, and when he sees the hint of sadness in her eyes, smiles. "Don't worry. We will use them later on." Oud leads Tiana to a machine and positions her in front of it. He straps her in. The machine will add force to your arms as you do the motions. It will test your current strength and speed. Once Oud is done strapping her in, he steps back and pulls the screen tube back out and turns it on again. "Now, start to form the figure 8. Tiana starts to move, and the machine slowly adds force. She slowly advances in speed, and the machine continues to add force. Oud is watching carefully while making notes on the screen. After a few moments go by, Oud walks over and turns the machine off. "Now, we are going to test your reflexes," he says as he walks over to another machine at the back of the room. Tiana follows behind and observes the machine while Oud starts it up. The machine is large with multiple holes in it, and the holes vary in size. "Okay," he says as he steps to the side. "Using your hands, block the objects as best as you can, alright?" Tiana nods her head as she watches the machine and waits for it to start. The machine throws a ball towards Tiana's face, and she hits it out of the way. The next ball flies towards her left shoulder, and she swats the ball to the left with her left hand. She easily continues to knock the balls out of the way. Then the machine starts to speed up. Tiana successfully swats the balls out of the way with no problem. Oud is writing notes when he notices how flawless her movements are. Her movements are like water, moving with the wind. It seems as if she and the machine had a connection as she swats away, catches, and kicks every object that is flying towards her. Oud slowly lowers the screen while he watches in amazement. The machine continues to increase in speed. and Tiana continues to keep up with it. The last ball is heading for her face, and she catches it with her hand and holds it in the air as she catches her breath. Oud turns the machine off as she lets the ball fall out of her hand. Oud walks up to her as he puts in his final notes and turns off the tube. "You have quite the skill." Tiana smiles as she wipes her hands on her shirt. "Are your hands okay?" Tiana looks at her hands. They are red from the impact of the balls. "Yeah, they're fine." "Do you need to take a quick break?" Tiana shakes her head. "All right, then let's move on to the next test." Tiana walks out of the training room, wiping sweat off her forehead. Oud is following behind her. "Enjoy your lunch. When you get back, you will be using your weapons." Tiana whips around with excitement displayed on her face. "Go eat first," Oud says with humor in his voice. Tiana walks into the cafeteria and looks around at all the other students. "There are even cliques in Berean colleges," she thinks to herself. To the left are a group of students that look like they are ready to fight anybody that even looks at them wrong. Another group looks like a bunch of sorority kids that don't have anything to lose. Tiana shakes her head in shame as she watches them horse around with the food. To her right is a group that is too obsessed with their looks to even notice each other. And in the far back of the cafeteria is a table with only two guys. The one with black hair and green eyes is looking her up and down. When they lock eyes, Tiana cocks an eyebrow and looks him up and down. He smirks and goes back to eating his food. Tiana scoffs as she looks at him for a few more seconds before getting in line. After she gets her food, she looks for an empty table and sits at it. She hurriedly eats her food and heads back to the training room after throwing away the scraps in the waste destroyer. The destroyer heats up and burns the waste and cools down again. Tiana walks into the training room where Oud is sitting in a chair drinking water. Tiana goes to her belt as she says, "So what are we going to do now?" Oud jumps at the sound of her voice and turns to see her bending down to take the knife and spatula out of the belt. "Back so soon?" he asks as he gets out of the chair, setting his water on the floor. "Yeah. It's almost mid-afternoon. I want to make sure we have enough time to get everything done." Oud laughs as he walks up to her. "I'm loving the spirit of yours." Tiana smiles as she slowly slices the air with the knife. "Come over here." He continues as he walks to another machine. Various objects will be coming out of this machine. Some are able to be cut and others you have to block. It tests your observation skills as well as weapon usage. Oud turns the machine on and Tiana stands with one foot back and her arms up, ready to strike. Oud steps out of the way and turns on the screen tube. The machine shoots out a ball and she hits it with the spatula. After that is an apple, which she slices in half. The items come out one by one and she easily blocks or slices them. Then another hole opens up in the machine and shoots out a pillow. Tiana notices it in her peripheral vision and spins and hits it with her spatula. Then another object shoots out on the other side and she slides across the floor and slices it. She pops back up and goes back to her starting position. Oud nods his head with an impressed look on his face. He writes "Natural Born Fighter" on the screen. The machine starts to increase in speed as more holes open up. Tiana runs, flips, spins, and slides all over the floor as she hits or slices every object that comes out, without missing a beat. A banana and a block come out at the same time, heading towards her face. Tiana takes her weapons and switches them in her hands and strikes in an X motion, hitting both items at the same time. She stands there while catching her breath. She stares at the machine as Oud walks over and turns it off. Thank you for listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, or night, or evening, or whatever time of day it is. Have a good one.